everyone, and welcome to the stream. A big day today. The product team from Microsoft Power Automate Desktop joins us. Please let us know here in the chat where you're from in the world. If you have any questions during today's sessions, also use the chat. And hello, Microsoft Power Automate Desktop product team. Hello, Ken. Hello, Nikos.
Hello,
Hey
Anders.
Anders, good to be here.
And you are the guys that built the product for us. Can you quickly introduce yourself, starting with Nikos?
Of course, hello everyone. I'm Nikos Moutzourakis. I'm a product manager for Microsoft for Power Automate for Desktop. I'm based in Athens, and it's really great to be here and have the session with you, Anders, and the viewers.
Nice to have you here, Nikos. And to those interested, Nikos was part of the Soft Automotive team back in the days. And Ken, who are you?
Hi everyone, my name is Ken. I'm based in Paris and I'm a product manager for Power Automate. I've been in Microsoft for not that long, about a year, but I'm very much focused on the transformation of SaaS for RPA and happy to talk about it later today.
So, without further ado, we will jump right into the presentation. But I will say hello to Bernard, Ivan, Ralph, Anthony, Edward, Ivan, and Gerald. A big welcome to the session and to all of you watching out there. Nikos, you will start the presentation, so we'll give the word to you.
I think Ken will start
Yep,
initially, and then
yep,
I
I will
will
talk,
continue.
but you run through the first couple of slides.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nikos. So first of all, we want to talk about what Power Automate is. And because Power Automate here itself, within, it's actually part of an ecosystem, right? So Power Automate, as we all know today, it's an automation workflow tool. However, it's actually sitting as part of what we call Power Platform. And within Power Platform, there are other various products that is used to do no code, low code, or even code first development. So just to illustrate that actually it's part of a big ecosystem. So in this case, you've got Power Apps that is mainly used to build application very quickly for certain use cases. And then you've got Power Virtual Agents, that is really our chatbot functionality. And then you've got Power BI, which is our business intelligence application software, and then Power Automate. And with this combined, you are able to actually drive the various aspects of application to automation to chatbot, automation to Power BI that actually drives the whole end-to-end value. And of course, underneath that, you've got very level of support, which is we have the AI builder or the AI capability that is infused within the whole Power Platform capabilities. We've got various amount of connectors, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide, and the different management tools that help you to manage the entire Power Platform application. But today, of course, we're going to focus on Power Automate and a heavy focus on the RPA aspect of Power Automate. Next slide, please, Nikos.
That's so great, Ken. Love to see that. And again, please post your questions in the chat. We will love to answer you.
Awesome. Yes, please do that. And in this next slide, just a very quick overview, because I think when we talk about Power Automate, there are actually various aspects of it. So within the Power Platform Automation Fabric, we often talk about RPA, which is really about Power Automate for desktop and the focus for today. But in fact, actually, Power Automate is as you know, it's cloud first. So we built it as cloud first, and the goal of Power Automate really here is to be able to do the bridge between the legacy systems, which we have to automate with RPA, or you need to do like web scraping and web automation, and bridge it with what we have in DPA or digital process automation, which is essentially automations that you already have, like modern APIs that you run your automation on, right? So the goal here is really to bridge between what RPA and DPA is. That's very important. And of course, more and more now. So in AI, we put here, process unstructured information, being able to generate AI model by, doing document processing. But as you know, and I think Anders, you've also covered that a lot recently, there are so much more in AI that we are putting into the product with Copilot and whatnot, and it becomes a bigger and bigger impact into our Power Platform automation fabric. All right, moving on to the next slide, which will focus specifically on more onto the Power Automate for desktop RPA aspect. Nikos, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Ken. Yeah, so first of all, let's say why Power Automate. What can Power Automate do for you? Well, Power Automate, you can automate tasks that are simple but mundane and should be performed over and over again during the day. And with Power Automate, you can focus on more constructive deliverables that require your creativity and your critical thinking, your strategic thinking. And the main aim of Power Automate is to allow both coders and non-coders to automate manual and repetitive tasks that follow a sequential rule-based flow. As Ken indicated, Power Automate for Desktop is the desktop component of Power Automate, and it's responsible for creating and executing desktop flows. With the desktop flows, the existing robotic process automation capabilities in Power Automate is broadened and enables the user to automate all repetitive desktop-related processes. And with Power Automate for Desktop, you can boost your productivity, focus on things that matter, like innovation, strategy, creativity. And moreover, with using the Power Automate for Desktop and creating automations may reduce the possibility of human errors, creating more robust and foolproof processes in your organization. Now let's check in more detail Power Automate for Desktop and its components. Power Automate for Desktop has two main components: the console and the designer. The console is its central interface. There you can find 4 tabs that display different kinds of information. First of all, we have the Home tab where you can find an intro for the product, some links for documentation, for learning, any news, and things like that. For the second tab, you can see your flows, the flows that you have created, you have implemented, while in the third tab, you have the flows that have been shared with you by other members of your team. And finally, in the fourth tab, we have the examples where you can find some real implementations of desktop flows, and you can use them in order to base your automation on these examples. Now, regarding the designer contains all the tools of Power Automate for Desktop required to design and debug a desktop flow. Also, any images, UI elements, variables of the specific desktop flow can be accessed and managed. Here in the designer, you can find more than 400 actions structured in group of actions for better navigation. You can easily start your implementation by just drag and drop an action from the list on the left inside the workspace. Power Automate for Desktop provides multiple ways to debug your desktop flows. For example, run, stop, pause the execution, insert breakpoints inside your flow, a step-by-step execution of the flow, run from here in order to start the execution from a specific action inside your flow, and others. In the designer, you can see the UI elements, capture the UI elements. We will see more in detail in a while, but for now, we can say that the UI elements are based on selectors, which are CSS-based, and users can edit them and create more dynamic and more robust UI automation scripts. Finally, in the designer, you can set a multi-level error handling mechanism where you can handle erroneous states at runtime in the most intuitive manner and improve your automation resiliency. So that's the introductory for Power Automate for Desktop. Now we will focus on the main subject of the presentation, which is UI automation in Power Automate for Desktop. First of all, we have to say what is UI automation. UI automation allows you to interact with elements inside your screen. Through UI automation, you can send mouse clicks, you can imitate keyboard actions, you can extract data from your screen, and UI automation consists of 2 types, depending on on what the user wants to interact with. We have desktop automation and web automation. Desktop automation allows users to interact with windows applications, including Windows operating system, Java apps, Java applets, ACP, and these interactions can be implemented through the UI automation group of actions that can be found in the designer. Regarding now the web automation, on the other hand, web automation is responsible for interacting with elements in web pages, and this can be done through the browser automation group of actions that can be found in the designer. And right now, Power Automate for Desktop supports 4 browsers, Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, and Internet Explorer. And note that in order to use the browser automation capabilities of Power Automate for Desktop, you have to install the Power Automate web extension in the respective browser that you will use for your automation. Also, I would like to note that Power Automate for Desktop supports desktop automation, UI automation in virtual machines, in virtual desktops like Citrix and RDP. By this, I mean that I can have Power Automate for Desktop installed in a machine, in my machine, my local machine, and interact with a Windows application which exists in another virtual desktop, and I can perform UI automation in the same fashion as in my local machine. In order to do so, you have to install a sub-component of Power Automate for Desktop inside the virtual machine called Power Automate Agent for virtual desktops. And please note that right now, web automation is not available for interacting with web pages inside a virtual desktop. Now let's focus more on the UI automation and the main component of UI automation. UI automation has to do with elements, UI elements. UI elements in RPA are the building blocks of the automation. They are the components of a software application or a web page that we can interact with, and that the Power Automate for Desktop can mimic human actions on. And some examples of UI elements are buttons, text fields, checkboxes, radio buttons, tables, and others. And as for the UI automation, UI elements also consists of 2 types, desktop elements and web elements, and can be captured either through the UI element picker component of Power Automate for Desktop or the recorder that the product offers. And all captured UI elements are stored in the UI element repository that can be found in the designer. There the user can edit the UI elements, rename them, delete them, and other actions. And of course, in the end, using the UI elements inside the respective actions, and depending on their type, meaning that a desktop element can be used only in an action of the UI automation group, while web elements can be used only in actions that exist in the browser automation group. Each UI element has at least one selector, and this is the core of UI automation, the selector. So what exactly is a selector? A selector is, you can say, an address for the UI element. It's the way to indicate the location of the UI element in the screen. In a technical, you can say, way, it's CSS based. It's CSS for web elements and CSS based for desktop elements, and consists of elements, attributes, and their respective values. And we will see more in the demo that I will have in a while. Of course, the user can edit the selector of a UI element, either through the visual builder, where the selector's elements hierarchy is displayed, and you can see the attributes and the values of each element, and of course you can edit them, or a text editor, which is a free text, where the user can manually set the selector using the respective syntax. Finally, I would like to note that variables can be used in selectors, variables are quite useful for cases that the selector is dynamic, meaning that some values might change every time that the web page is loaded or the desktop application is launched. And this can be handled with the usage of variables in the selectors. And of course, the value of the variable is set at runtime, and the final selector is generated at run time. Now we will move with some features that have been released over the few past months that are extremely useful for UI automation. We are really happy to have them for our users. First of all, we have the text-based selector. With the text-based selectors, the text-based selectors are based on the text attribute of the UI element, and it's extremely useful for cases where an element's text value is static and unique. And it refers, of course, to both desktop and web elements, and this text-based selector can be generated through the UI element picker using the right-click context menu. And again, we will see an example at our demo in a while. Another feature that was released in April and really offers valuable capabilities to the user is a test selector feature. With this feature, the user can check whether a selector can successfully locate a UI element in your screen. Of course, the UI element has to be present at the moment of the testing. And if the testing of the selector is successful, the UI element that is found will be highlighted. Note that when the selector contains one or more variables, the user has to set the value of the variable before the testing takes place. And this feature is really useful because you can easily, quickly, with the most user-friendly way, check if the selector that have been captured by Power Automate for Desktop or you have created manually can locate the element you desire successfully. Another feature that was released in May, and it's really useful, is the repair selector functionality. With the repair selector, the user can fix a selector, and of course, this will make sense if the selector cannot locate a UI element successfully. And the only thing that the user has to do is just recapture the UI element. And then Power Automate for Desktop will automatically generate a new dynamic, robust selector, which is the repaired, of course, and will replace the previous one. Repair selector is really useful for cases that the selector is dynamic. It's a really quick and easy way to create a dynamic selector, or for users that are not they are not familiar with the selector's logic and syntax and the CSS. And finally, we have another feature that I want to present. This is not related with UI automation, but it's really great. We are really happy that it's part of Power Automate for Desktop. It's the GPT action in desktop flows. So with this action, you can call the ChatGPT functionality through PAD, through Power Automate for Desktop. You can have improved technical capabilities, for example, extracting with ease information from unstructured from sources of unstructured data like emails, online posts, and others, or analyze text to get a summary or to classify a text or even perform a sentiment analysis. And also with this action, you can generate text based on your input or any input inside from any source. And then with the output variable of the action, you can use it as part of your RPA flow. And now I will proceed with my demo, just showing all these things, all these interesting things to you. So here you can see the console view of Power Automate for desktop. I have already created two flows, two desktop flows for the demo purposes. The first performs some desktop automation, and I will explain in a while the scenario, while the other flow performs web automation and utilizes the ChatGPT action in order to generate a text that can be used for my purposes. First of all, let's view the desktop flow for the desktop automation. Just to explain really quickly what I'm doing here. So I have a CRM application called Contoso, where I keep all the data for my customers, containing their accounts, some data for their accounts, the invoices, some support cases, etc. And what I want to do with this flow is to insert in the CRM some new customers by using the accounts view and taking a JSON with all the data that I want to import. So what I'm doing here is I want to click on the new in order to have a new record, insert the account name, the primary contact, and the contact email of its customer, and click save, and then proceed with the next entry. So as you can see here, I'm just converting JSON to custom object in order to get the data. I'm launching the application, and then I have a loop as I have multiple data, multiple accounts here. So I have a loop in order to insert the data inside my inside the application. As you can see, each action, this is UI automation group action, has a UI element as an input, and this is where the UI elements are required. As you can see, the UI element here is a new button. You can see it here in the UI element repository. So if I open this by double click or just right click and click on edit, you will see that the UI element selector builder window is launched, is displayed. And here you can see the whole magic of UI automation, the whole magic of the UI elements. Here we have the selector, which probably seems to be unreadable, but it's really makes full sense. Here we have the list of selector. Each element has one or more selectors connected to it. By default, it has one. It's the one that was generated by Power Automate for desktop, but I can create multiple selectors here. And this functionality is really useful for cases that a UI element might have different selector based on its state. For example, some cases it's enabled, sometimes it's disabled, but I want to perform an action on it, so I might have to use two selectors. As you can see here, for each selector, we have the elements in a hierarchical view, and by clicking on each element, you can see next to it the attributes and the values that these attributes have. And by checking them, I'm just using this attribute inside my selector. So as you can see here, if I uncheck the class, then in the selector, the class is no longer being used. Or I can click on another attribute and add it inside the selector. I can move down to the second level, the second element. Here again, I have the class and ID that is being used in my selector. Any change I do, you can see that it's being depicted in the selector. And of course, I can view the selector in the text editor view. Here you can see the free text where I can edit it like I'm editing in a text editor. Also, something really important that we have to know is that each UI element has a screen, a parent. So here you can see that all these buttons have a parent which is called window Contoso invoicing, which is the Contoso invoicing application window. The window Contoso invoicing, as you can see, also has a selector that can be edited, can be tested, we can do whatever we need. And you have to ensure that also the screen selector is valid and the screen can be found at your automation. Now let's go back in the child, in the new button. This UI element refers to this button. I want to click it. So as I said, I can manually edit it, and then I can perform multiple actions on this UI element. I can either recapture it, create a new selector. Sorry. Close it. Okay. So here I can recapture it and create a new. Sorry, I captured the wrong. So I want the new. I can recapture it and create a new selector. And of course, I can test it or repair it right now. Let's say that I want to perform some changes here. I want to remove, let's say, the class and test if my change will affect negatively the selector, or if the selector can successfully locate the UI element. And if I run it, you can see that the correct UI element was found. And you can see here an icon saying that the test of the selectors has been successful. Of course, I can test all selectors below a UI element by just clicking on the arrow and click on the test all option. And here you can see that both selectors will be tested and both were found successfully. Now let's check a case where a selector might not be correct, might not be valid. So let's say that I go here and I perform a small change and I want to test it to see if this will work, if this will locate my UI element as expected. Click on test. As I said, the UI element must be present. And here you can see that the element was not found, and I have this icon. And the really interesting thing here, okay, let me fix it, is that Power Automate for Desktop can indicate which element was not found. So let's say that I want to change this one. I perform some changes here and test it. You will observe that the icon is here now, indicating to the user that the problem is in this level. So the user has to fix the specific level to check the specific elements, attributes, and values. And here I will click the repair. Okay, it failed. I don't know what to do. I can click on the repair functionality, and the only thing I have to do is to recapture the UI element. So this is the UI element that I want to recapture, and Power Automate for Desktop will generate a selector that will cover, will fix the problem. And now you can see that if I test it, the element will be found successfully. Also, one last note, through the through the UI element selector builder window, you can open the parent, the screen selector window, in case you want to check or fix the window, the parent. As you can see here, by testing it, the window was found. Now here, I want to, I have created this flow, but I realized that this application has a lot of views. And in order to perform this scenario, I want the accounts view. So I have to ensure that after launching, the accounts view is being displayed. So what I can do is I can send a click to the accounts by just using the respective action here. And I can capture the UI element, but as this is a text UI element and it's static, I can use the text-based selector in this scenario. So I use a highlighter to hover over it, right-click while it is highlighted, and click on the capture based on text option. Here you can see that I can set the operator and the text value. For me, it's always equals to account, so I don't have to change the operator here, but it supports multiple operators. Here's and regular expressions. I can click on capture. As you can see, the parameter was populated with the specific UI element. I can click on save, and here you can see the selector. So I have a text with the name accounts, and it's the second in the view, as this is the first one. So I'm using the EQ, the equal parameter here. So if I run this, you can see that data are being populated inside the application in an easy way without doing anything, just reading the JSON, and through the loop, the data are being inserted. So that's all for the desktop automation scenario. Now we can move to the next scenario, which has to do with web automation and the use of GPT. As I said, all capabilities of UI automation of UI element selector builder window can be found in both desktop and web elements. As you can see here, I can test it, repair it, do whatever I need. The only difference with web elements is that I have to specify the browser tab that the element can be found in order to test it. And something that it's nice to know, it's that the icon here in the repository, you can understand whether an element is a web element or a desktop element. The globe is for web elements, while, as you can see, this icon is for desktop elements. So it's an easy way to distinguish the two types. And what I do with this flow is, let's assume that I am a member of the sales team of Power Automate, and I want to send an email to my contacts, to my customers, talking about the premium features of Power Automate for desktop, and try to convince them, let's say, to purchase a Power Automate license. So what I do, I navigate to the premium to the documentation of Power Automate, having all the premium RPA features, which this list is being updated almost every month with new and new capabilities, and I want ChatGPT to generate an email that I can send to my customers, uh, demonstrating the benefits of the premium features of Power Automate for desktop. So let's run it. You
And
will see that.
Nikos, while it runs,
Yeah,
maybe you can
yeah.
tell me and Hyper Automation and a lot of other viewers, how do we get this AI Builder preview action group in Power Automate Desktop?
Well, for that, it's okay. This will take a. This can be found under the AI Builder group of actions in the list. I will show you in a while how you can find it. Right now, here we have a preview of the email that will be sent. Also, I will save it in a file, so we will review it in a way. So as I said, the GPT action can be found under the AI Builder group in the actions pane of Power Automate for desktop. This is a premium feature, so the user has to get the necessary licensing. And of course, this is as this is a premium feature, it's not part of the default edition of the free edition of Power Automate for desktop.
Great, thanks, Nikos.
So now let's view the email that was generated by ChatGPT. So here you can see we have a really great email with all the features, explaining the features with the subject. So with this flow, I can quickly have the email that I will send to my customers. And the only thing that I have done is just navigating to the page, extracting the data from the page, and just creating its GPT action saying that I want to run an email to send to customers to promote the benefits of premium features. As you can see, just inserting a variable, the data that were extracted from the previous action inside here, and ChatGPT generated the email. That's all from me. I suppose we can proceed with some questions.
Yeah, we have a few questions to UI elements and selectors. Agnes asks, how is the repair selector different from simply recapturing a new selector and deleting the previous one?
Well, the difference is that in cases that the selector is different, what repair selector does is comparing the already existing selector and the selector that has just been captured. In many cases, the repair selector functionality generates dynamic selectors using, let me, so again here, so it can use operands, create dynamic selectors. So we can go here and you can see that in some cases the repair selector will do itself, change the operand to the operator to use the contains or the starts with, the ends with, create regular expressions. All these things are being performed automatically, so the user, even if it's not aware or familiar with all this logic, Power Automate for Desktop will do it for them.
Thanks,
So
Nikos.
it's a dynamic process. The repair selector is a dynamic process. It's not something static.
Thanks, Nikos and Agnes. Was that answer for you? Please let us know in the chat. And Nikos, that was all the UI selector questions. We have a bunch of other questions, but I think we will transition to Ken.
Okay.
And hosted RPA. So I will change screen here. And we will have a very nice topic now. Hello, Ken. Are you still with us?
Hello. Yeah, still here. I'm intently listening, and in fact, there is a little nugget of information that I'll share later when we go through the hosted RPA presentation. But I'm happy to talk about hosted RPA today and what it's all about. So what I'm going to do is I've just got
so
like
Ken, so
yeah,
you
go ahead.
promised us a little gift later in the session there.
A little gift, more like a little like information, I guess.
I'm looking forward that you got
I'm
me
not sure
hooked.
if it's a gift, but like yeah, it's a kind of good information to share.
Very
Um,
nice.
so coming to hosted RPA, so I mean, I've just got a few slides, maybe 4 or 5 slides, and I'll walk through in terms of the demonstration of hosted RPA itself. So as we all know, and Nikos, you have also shown, like, for you to be able to actually do RPA, automation, you would need, end to end, right? First, you understand what's the process, then you build the automation, and then once you run it in production, you've got lots of production automation that you need to do at scale. That means high volume, lots of machines in a pool that you need to run automation, and then you look at optimizing your processes. That's the journey. But I think what's the key point that I wanted to kind of emphasize with this slide is that RPA needs machines. You need a machine to be able to do automation with RPA because you are mimicking more or less the mouse and the keyboard, right? So then, therefore, you need a machine to be able to run this automation. So today, one of the challenges, we are all moving towards SaaS, but one of the key challenges that we still see is that one key aspect within RPA is that machines today are still managed by our customers. So customers are managing the machines. They are spinning up the infrastructure. They are managing the life cycle of these machines. So all of this is today customer managed in most of the situations, right? And the customers could be using, in this case, a physical machine. They could be using a virtual machine. They could be using Azure, so on and so forth. The bottom line is customers managing. And what we are seeing here, and what we want to change, and we believe this is a transformation within RPA, and this is where the industry will move forward in the coming future, is that today we want to take away the complexity of customer managing the machines, but instead of the customer managing the machines, why not we as Microsoft, as Power Automate, host the machines on behalf of the customer and runs the automation that the customer needs. So that means we take away all the infrastructure aspects of hosting your automation infrastructure and then leave it to Microsoft to be able to manage that for you. That's what we're doing with hosted RPA, and that's the end goal for us. Now having said that, we see that there are kind of two parts within what we call hosted RPA. Number one, it's mainly as individual machines that our developers have today, RPA developer have, to be able to build tests, run, and use it for automation. And then you've got the second aspect where we've got customers who are running automation industrially, meaning you've got hundreds, if not thousands, of machines that you need to run thousands of automations, and you need to run it at scale. That's where you need something that can automatically scale and can actually meet the business requirement. So that's the key part, right? So what we've done is we've launched two two areas, two features within hosted RPA. The first one, it's called hosted machines. Hosted machines is essentially your individual hosted machines that is able to, and it's assigned to you, it's assigned to an RPA developer. You can directly access it within the Power Automate desktop portal. So in this case, if you look on the screen, there is a open in browser. So directly creating a machine within the Power Automate portal, accessing the machine within the portal, build your automation, test your automation, run your automation, everything within the portal itself. And that's what we are offering as part of hosted RPA with the hosted machine scenario. This basically means you no longer need an RPA dedicated machine that you go to IT, request for them to say, I need a machine, this version. All of this is now managed centrally through the Power Automate desktop application portal. So that's the key aspect, right? And some of the things that we've got, I mean, what we support. So today, if you're trying it out today, you would be able to use like the default Windows VM image, which we provide. So we provide a default VM image that you can use. You can also access it through the Microsoft hosted network. That means it's as if you're creating a VM on Azure and you've got regular connectivity. But at the same time, we know there is a need for on-prem access, right? Because a lot of RPA automations are running on, let's say, legacy applications that is connected through a customer's network, right? It's not accessible on the internet, for example. So that's also something that we've introduced, and we know that in hosted machines you can have bring your own VNet. That means you can have a virtual network on Azure, and what you need to do is then share this access to the Power Automate service principal, and we would create a hosted machine for you and connect that hosted machine to your virtual network. And then, of course, from your virtual network, you could have, you know, VPN, you could have, you know, express route, whatever configured for you to be able to access your on-prem resource. So we host the machines, we connect to your VNet, and then you've got the full access to your local resources to run your automation. And of course, custom VM image is also something that we support. Um, we know that customers, you know, they don't want to build their own machine applications upfront. They want to have everything packaged within a VM image, and then so that they can reuse it. So again here, we provide default VM image, but you could also bring in your own custom VM image, a golden IT VM image, for example. And what you do is, you know, using Azure Compute Gallery, as long as you share this VM image to the Power Automate service principal, again, we would be able to actually create a hosted machine now with a specific custom VM image and connect to your virtual network. And essentially what we see here is it's going to be able to replace everything that, you know, a person need to use for RPA, you know, from a customer hosted machine into, in this case, what we call hosted RPA, a Microsoft or Power Automate hosted machine. That's kind of a very powerful feature here that we believe is going to transform the market, and you know, people would gravitate towards this offer. So that's on the hosted machines aspect. I'll move on to the what we call the hosted machine group. Um, so this is also extremely exciting because today one of the key challenges that we see in customers is that we know automation, RPA automation is always seasonal. You could have RPA automation depending on your needs, right? If it's like financial conciliation, for example, you might have a lot of automation jobs towards end of the month. You could have some automation jobs that are very heavy towards, you know, midnight every day because there is some maintenance work and you are triggering. So this means that actually automation jobs is very seasonal in terms of the volume of activity, or can be very seasonal. And what we see from a lot of our customers is that, you know, in the scenarios where they manage their own machine and they do not have auto scaling, basically we are always sizing for the maximum throughput, right? The maximum expected throughput. What this means is you have very low utilization of your machines because most of the time the machine is probably not running anything, and you know, it's extra costs. And of course, when you're not able to meet the demand, then your business is actually affected because, for example, you did not, you know, create a static group that is enough to meet the demands of the net of the automation jobs. So that's some of the kind of key pain points. And with hosted machine groups, what we have done is we apply the concept of, again, we host the machines for you, but in this case it's a machine group and a hosted machine group that we auto scale on behalf of the customer. So basically, we auto scale the number of machines that are in this machine group based on the workload. So if you've got high amount of desktop flows that is queued, and you are creating a backlog within the queue, then we would assign more machines to your hosted machine group to be able to complete the job or to be able to execute more rapidly. And then it's not just scaling out, but also scaling in. The moment we see there are no more jobs and there are less work to be done, we actually scale in and we remove the machines from this hosted machine group. The beauty of that is that all of these bots, I mean, all of these machines, which we call bots in our terminology, they are actually load balanced across an environment. This means that regardless of, you know, you've got 5 hosted machine group, they are actually all load balanced within the same environment. That means that you actually have increased utilization of your machines. You're more optimized because whenever some machine is scaled in a hosted machine group, it becomes available for another machine group to use, right? So that's very important. And then of course we've got like custom VM image. You can access it through your local and work and school account. All of this is available as what I mentioned for the hosted machines. With this in mind, and by the way, this is what I mentioned earlier. You will actually is able to actually auto scale based on the work trends. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example of how, in this case, you've got three um, groups. In this case, I call them Oracle, SAP, Web Browser Automation Group. And as you can see here, I have 10 bots allocated to this environment. So I've got 10 machine capacity in this environment. And as you can see, because they are all load balanced and the automation work is scheduled at different point in time, you can actually share the capacity, have increase of your usage of your machines, and essentially it becomes and still meet the business requirement. So this is kind of very important into being able to be elastic and at the same time being able to load balance across the environment itself. With this, I'm going to go through the demo just to show what hosted RPA is. So I mentioned a little information nugget, but like, sorry, Anders, maybe you'll be disappointed. It's not something that like I'm gonna announce that will be launched and surprise you. But in what I wanted to say was Nikos was doing the full demonstration just now. You might notice it, but the full demonstration that Nikos did on his machine was actually a hosted machine. So it's actually a live demonstration of what you could do with hosted machine. You don't even need your own machine. Everything is done like directly from the Power Automate portal, right?
Nice.
So yeah. So what I wanted to share is, no, it's as easy as this. So I've got this environment. So basically, this is the environment that Nikos was using as well. So you could see here, Nikos has his hosted machine, and that was the machine he was using to show his demonstration. And how do you access the machine? It's as simple as clicking on the machine and you go open in browser. That opens a separate tab. Again, we are actually, and you might notice here, you see Windows 365. That's the backend platform that we are actually leveraging. So it's a stable platform using cloud PCs. So as you can see, it's just a matter of a click from Power Automate portal. It goes into opening the connection, and shortly after, you'll be able to access your machine and run, build, and test your automation. So you've got all of this ready, all set up for you. The machine is ready to go. I wouldn't go too much deeper because Nikos has done the full end-to-end demonstration just now, but that's as easy as accessing your machine from the Power Automate portal itself. From the perspective of creating a hosted machine, it's also very simple. You go to new and you go to hosted machine. And then from here, essentially, you can put here like my development machine. Um, as an example, select next. As I've mentioned, you can choose either the default Windows VM image, which we provide. It's a Windows 11 Enterprise version, or you could use a custom VM image. If that's already set up and that's what you need, you can use a custom VM image as well, as an example below. The next one here, your network connections. So it's an optional field. If you do not select anything, you go directly to the Microsoft hosted network. Well, if you have a specific VNet, like a finance VNet or a corporate VNet that you have in your environment, you can use that. Click next. That's it. You got to click create, and basically your machine is ready to go in 20 to 30 minutes. That's basically the provisioning time, but that's as good as that's as simple as it is to create and use a hosted machine, right? Um, Really, really, really powerful. Now, I'll switch over to the demonstration on the hosted machine group. So it's very similar. Hosted machines and the hosted machine group is very similar. In this case, in this scenario, just to show as an example, I've actually got two groups, and I've got one which I call it the host invoice processing bots, and the other one is the refund request processing bots. And as you can see here, I've got some flows queued, I've got some flows running, and I'm going to show you what's the configuration here. So you can see here in the setting for the invoice processing bots, I've got 6 bots, so max number of bots. So here I'm saying that this group can scale anywhere up to 6 machines, right? That's the maximum. And of course, it's a slider that I can control based on the number of add-ons, right? So the way we are providing this feature is through what we call a hosted RPA add-on. So if you're already familiar with Power Automate, there is, today the unattended RPA add-on. So it works in a very similar way. You attach the add-ons to the environment, and then basically you have that capacity available for you to use in that environment. So in this case, I've got 6 bots, so I can scale up to 6 machines. And for the refund process, I have 10. So I've got 6 and 10. So that's kind of like the configuration that I have. And one way to illustrate, right? So all of these, they're all running flows. And the way I've done is kind of, I've created a random number of activities that they need to run. And you can see here through the desktop flow activity, this is something that was introduced quite recently as well. As you can see here, the desktop flow activity screen shows all the, I mean, you've got last runs, you've got errors, you've got machines, you've got like multiple tabs that shows you different information. But essentially here, as you can see from the trend, the number of flows that are running is inconsistent, right? It's going up and down. And the best way to illustrate this and how the hosted machine group is able to auto scale and meet the demands, um, I've built something here that basically look at number of machines in an environment. So you can see here, I've got the invoice processing bots and I've got the refund request processing bots. And you can see over the period of time, this is actually the number of machines that are basically in that hosted machine group, right? And you can see the number changes. When there is no activity, there is no bots. When there is activity, it scales up. You've got 3 machines and then 6 machines, which was the maximum. And then once that workload drops, it actually goes back to 0. And you can actually see the scaling that's happening here, going up and going down. And all of this is of course shared within an environment. So you could already see if you've got like 5 hosted machine groups, all of them in this environment, the workload would be shared across the environment. And the machine, once it's scaled in, once it's no longer required, can then be used by other hosted machine groups to be able to run automation jobs. So I think that's kind of a very, very important way to illustrate this. Um, so coming back to this, as you can see here, these are varying workloads. We are actually able to meet the demand of the business requirement by being able to scale in and out based on the business requirement. That's what I wanted to share on the hosted machine and hosted machine group. I'm just gonna go back into the last slide that I have before we go into um, you know features and roadmap. Essentially, I think it's pretty straightforward now. Hosted RPA, you really size your machines automatically to have business continuity. So that's very important to be able to meet any demands or spikes in the demand of the workload. Number two, all your machine, your virtual machines, your VM images, your custom VNets, they're all available and managed from the portal. So you can actually govern it at scale. A lot of what we hear is that as customers who are using RPA grow in terms of like workload, the number of machines that they need to manage becomes a problem as well. And this is where everything can be governed at scale. And of course, the last one is COGS optimized, because now you are heavily more utilizing your machines by doing load balancing. IT admins is freed up because they no longer need to provision a machine for you, apply a license for you, configure them. All of that is done automatically. And then, of course, with hosted RPA, because it's an add-on, it's as simple as to be able to count your ROI for your automation itself. That's what I have in terms of hosted RPA. I think probably a good time to pause to see if you've got any questions
Yeah, we have a
before we
few
go into new
questions.
features and roadmap. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward for the new features and roadmap section here. So stay tuned out there. Ken, Nikos will come back. But first, let's have a few questions about hosted RPA.
Sure.
Addy and Bernard asks, and Bubello asks, is there a free community version of hosted machine for developers to test?
Good question. So today, if you want to use and test the hosted machines, there are kind of 2 paths. The first one is in Power Automate, we have the 90-day premium free trial. So if you have the 90-day free premium free trial, you should be able to get access to a hosted machine and you can test it out there. If you're part of an organization and essentially from the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, there's also a possibility, if you have not done that before, you can actually request for 25 hosted RPA add-ons. I believe it's granted to you for 30 days, and then you can renew for another 30 days. So these are the kind of 2 avenues that you have if you want to test out hosted machines and without having to commit into paying for a license for now.
Great. And Addy and Mobello, I hope that was answer. Let me know in the chat. And Balakrishna says, how secure are hosted machines when it comes to automating, for example, bank applications?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, and that's a kind of a question that we have quite a lot from our customers, because like there are questions about like can you access my data, so on and so forth. So um, the short answer is, there is no kind of lax in, kind of compliance, in terms of like privacy and the way we are managing the data. So when we have a hosted machine that is provisioned, it's only for you. That machine is not shared with another subscription, not shared with another customer. So what you have is really kind of isolated for you. And I'm happy to share like a lot more details in terms of like some of the security aspects, because it's kind of one of the key information questions that we get from our customers as well. But think of it as we do not like kind of remove any kind of like security boundaries just because we want to get this feature out. And for the customers, it's it has the same restrictions as we have for any kind of VMs that is hosted by Microsoft on behalf of the customer. So think of it that way.
Great. And I hope that was answered to you, Mabella. Please let us know in the chat. Let's jump to the new features and the roadmap. I'm looking very much forward to see that.
All right, sounds good. So from new features and roadmap, we'll first start off two parts. The first one was more or less what was announced at Microsoft Build. I think, Anders, you're probably familiar with that, and I think you've made 2 or 3 videos with based on some of the features that we've announced. But I think this is mainly for the audience that you have not kind of gone, if you have not gone through it yet. Like, these are some of the key features that we've announced. There is also a link that is there up above. Like, if you click on that, it gives you a lot of descriptions about what are these features, and there is also a lot of links to learn more. And for example, if you want to see how can I use hosted machines, the information is there, what you need to do for a trial and whatnot. So that's kind of a good link to keep and access in terms of the 4 features that we announced here. So yeah, first of all, we've got Copilot for Power Automate. I think, Anders, you just wrote something maybe last week or 10 days ago about a Copilot feature. So it's really about building on to, in the beginning, where you are able to actually describe what you want to do, and we actually propose a flow for you. In this case, what we've done is to extend further, where we actually guide you, or we have a Copilot beside you to actually guide you throughout not just the creation of the flow, but
Ken,
to actually, yeah, go ahead.
can you move the microphone a little bit closer? I think your cord grabbed it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, so it's creating some sounds. Yeah. Is it okay now? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So that's one of the key features. So it's now available in preview, Copilot for Power Automate. One thing I would say, with what we're doing, you would see in the future more and more features which have AI or Copilot infused into Power Automate. That's something that we are, going to be looking forward more and more to kind of include these kind of capabilities. The next one is on Actions SDK. So this is where you can actually build your own custom actions using the SDK, and then have that available as part of all your users in an environment, to be able to use that as if it's a standard action, right? So that's something that's very powerful. You build that using C sharp, and you can actually use these as actions that you can actually introduce in your organizations for anyone to use in that environment. That's also very powerful. Hosted machines, we talked about it just now, so I will not cover that. Another thing that's really exciting is work queues. So we've started work queues in preview. We know that this is kind of a very key feature, and we are heavily invested in it. It's really about how do we ensure that the prioritization of work that needs to be done is managed correctly to be able to meet the business requirement or the SLA of the business. That's kind of, let's say, a very high level view of what work queues is. We are kind of, let's say, at the starting point of work queues, and you should see more and more features coming in with regards to work queues in the coming months. And that's kind of something that we're really focusing on. The different pillars, as you can see some of them in preview, you would see more and more of them going, more and more features and going into GA in the coming months.
Great. And before we jump,
Yeah.
maybe Nikos and Ken, you can tell us, are we going to see Copilot in Power Automate Desktop? And are we going to have some work queue actions in Power Automate Desktop? Both, I think, will be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Uh,
Nikos, you're on mute if
yeah,
you're speaking.
yeah, I
Go
know.
ahead first. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, for the work queues, yeah, where actions, the respective group of actions will be inserted in the Power Automate for desktop, so the user might use desktop actions for handling work queues and to work with work queues. Now for the Copilot in Power Automate for desktop, it's something that we have in mind in general, as Ken indicated. We will infuse AI in our product as much as we can, but right now I cannot say more on this. But yeah,
Great.
it's something that we would love to have, let's say.
Great. And an estimate on the work queues group of actions in Power Automate Desktop, do you have that?
If I'm not mistaken, I think it will be next month, but this is I'm not sure. I
Great.
have to confirm it. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Nikos.
All right. Yeah.
And back to Ken.
Thank you. So then, what are the kind of, I would say, key plan features that we are going to introduce in the next coming months? Another point of reference here, just to share. So if you're interested to know what's coming, what's in the roadmap, you can actually go and look at the release wave 1, 2023 release wave 1. So there's a short link here that you can access it. But essentially, it gives you kind of what we have in the roadmap. And what I wanted to use, or we wanted to use the time, is to kind of focus on some of the selected plan features, more specific to PAT or more specific to desktop flow automation. Some of it are using credentials from Azure Key Vault, so that's something that's very essential because today, if users are basically using a variable or entering the information of their credentials within a connections field. But with Azure Key Vault, what would happen is that then you can actually reference an Azure Key Vault as your credentials. And on top of that, because you're referencing an Azure Key Vault, here you can actually do password rotation without having to modify the connection settings each time your password change based on the retention settings. So all you need to do is just change it from the Azure Key Vault, and it would be reflected across all your desktop flow connections. And of course, like Azure Key Vault is also one of the preferred way or the recommended way to store your credentials if you use that for automations. So that's one of the key features that is going to be coming soon. The next one on hosted machine group, I talked about hosted machine as an individual scenario that supports virtual network already. For hosted machine group, this is something that's coming, very shortly. In the next, couple of months, it'd be very very short. To be able to use the bring your own virtual network with hosted machine group to be able to access on-prem resources. The next couple of features, maybe Nikos, do you want to run through them?
Yes. Of
Yeah.
course, of course. Thank you, Ken. So yeah, the next feature that's coming is bringing down more cloud connectors to Power Automate for desktop. And right now, we have the SharePoint group. In the next few months, we will have more and more cloud actions to be part of Power Automate for desktop and to be used in desktop flows in the same fashion as user can use them in a cloud flow in the portal. Also, we will have a new tool for UI automation called UI Spy, which can be used for inspecting UI elements in your display. With this tool, the user will be able to view in a hierarchical tree view all the elements that are part of his or her display and capture them or view the attributes and the values. And with this tool, the user will be able to create either more robust, better selectors or understand how UI is being perceived by Power Automate for desktop and RPA and capture elements in an easy and user-friendly way, not only through the highlighter, but in just by navigating to the respective UI element and just capture it. Also, Power Automate for Desktop will provide the capability of having attended execution of a desktop flow without interfering with the user's display. Right now, UI automation, desktop automation, requires the window, the screen that the flow is interacting with is in the foreground, and this, in some cases, does not allow the user to use the machine at that time. With this capability, the user will be able to use his or her machine while the desktop actions will be performed in the background in the same fashion as the web automation is performed when the physical interaction is not enabled. And finally, we will provide the capability to the users to use a set of UI elements in multiple desktop flows. This means that I will be able to create to export my UI element repository for a specific window, web page, or for multiple of multiple objects of screens and web pages, and share with other users or use them in other flows, in other desktop flows of mine. And this will provide a lot of value for creating better UI automation, easy UI automation, and more scalable UI automation.
Great,
So
Nikos.
that's
And
all.
Nikos, I have a
Yes,
question for you.
of course.
And that is from Agnes, and that is because I know you worked at the Softomotive team before it was acquired by Microsoft. And Agnes says the UI Spy sounds a lot like what we had in Win Automation Process Robot. Pretty
Yes,
sure it was called even the same thing. Is that correct?
yes, that's correct. It will have the same capabilities as Win Automation and much more. We will add more capabilities there. But yeah, the base is the same as Win Automation.
Thank you, Nikos. And also, Agnes says, can you elaborate a bit more on how the attended execution is supposed to work without interfering with the user's display? Would that also work with keystrokes and image recognition?
No, no. This with the let's say the background execution of your automation, the actions will be performed through messages, so it will not be physical clicks, physical moves, movement of the mouse to the element and send the click or send the text. So this is why it will not interfere with the user. On the other hand, for sending keys, this would require, at least if you want to send them in the foreground window, if the configuration is to send them in the foreground window, this will require the window to be in the foreground. Image, the same fashion. Right now, the image has to be displayed. This is how image recognition works generally. So for now, we'll just apply the UI automation actions group, the actions in the group of in the UI automation group.
Great. And that was it, at least for these planned new features. We have
Right. I think the next one is really about Q&A. So like that's kind of what we have.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
and we have a lot of questions. And to you out there, this is your chance to bring the questions to Ken and Nikos. And Persmik Krufi, sorry if I mispronounce your name, asks, are there plans to introduce local variables in subflows?
For now, we do not have such plans. It's something that we have in mind. We know, we are aware of the value, but right now we do not have something in the roadmap for the next months. But stay tuned, because it's something that we might have it in the future.
Great. And Agnes says, any plans for reusable Power Automate desktop code snippets? So like we can add like a group of actions to a library and then reuse them across flows. I think
I suppose something like the libraries, the user libraries that we had in Win Automation. For that, right now we have released the custom actions, which is something that you can create your own actions, so it's something that you can do on your own. On the other hand, creating a set of already existing actions of PAD, I know that It's something that we are working on. I don't have a specific date or a specific plan right now, but I know that it's something that we will do in the near future.
Great, Agnes. Please let us know if that is answer enough. We have loads of questions, but we have 15 minutes over time. Is it 5 minutes okay with you, Ken and Nikos? Or
Yeah, I
Course,
think we can
of
take
course.
5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah,
great.
of course.
And we have some very specific questions and some broader ones. Neil, for example, asked, is it possible to activate menu items that aren't visible but would be visible activated in a UIA tree?
Well, for that, through the UI Spy, I consider that the user will be able to find these elements and create a selector that will locate them successfully. But of course, this depends on the case. But it's something that I consider can be done easily with UI Spy, as all elements will be displayed in the tree.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Nikos. And Thomas asks, hello Thomas, will there be added a folder structure to cloud desktop flows? I think he means by organizing in the
Yeah.
My Flows tab.
Well, for now, the user can organize their flows through the solutions that are available in Power Automate. On the other hand, for organizing the desktop flows in Power Automate for desktop, we are considering having something like tagging of the flows, and in order for the user to locate them easily and organize them in the best manner.
Great. Thank you, Nikos and Thomas. I hope that was answer. We'll take the two last questions. Akushit says, is there any option to share global variables to multiple flows?
If I'm not mistaken, this can be done through Dataverse, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if Ken is aware of that, but I think the global variables can be set in the database and can be used then globally.
Great. And actually, the last question is more like a question I got a lot. Even I posted on about this session on LinkedIn yesterday, and that is, are you planning to provide a framework for creating Power Automate desktop flows, like where we can use the best practices such as error handling, logging, and all these things? I know you have the examples, but do you plan it?
Yeah, for that, yeah. Well, right now it's something that we do not, we do not have a plan to do, but it's really great feedback. It's something that I will take it and go to my, to my team to discuss it, because it will be, I think it will be great to have something like that. So again, I will say stay tuned, and I'm sure that we will have great news
Great.
in the
Thank
future.
you, Nikos. And thanks to all of you watch this session out there. If you enjoyed it, please give the video a thumbs up. That will help us getting out to even more. Nikos and Ken, I know you're two busy men building Power Automate desktop for us. Thank you for joining today.
Yeah,
It
our
was great.
pleasure, and happy to
Of course.
interact with you, and also hear a lot of questions and feedback, good feedback from the audience. So yeah, I'll try to look at some of the comments offline and see if there's something that I can respond to as well as offline. But like, thank you everyone for your time, and really appreciate it.
Great, and
Yeah.
I promise
Well,
to.
yeah.
And if you have any feedback, just go in the chat or in the comments to this video. I promise I will send all of the feedback and suggestions to Ken and Nikos. They're very happy that you provide this feedback. They went through the LinkedIn thread yesterday, and I'll gather everything in a document and send to them later this week. So, see you all.
Great. Thank
Awesome.
you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, others.
Have a good day,
Have a
everyone.
great day. Bye.